Apple's own chief hardware officer walked out the door and straight into OpenAI's secret device lab. Weeks later, Apple filed a lawsuit calling it theft, not exaggeration, not spin. The filing says trade secrets were stolen at every level of OpenAI's hardware operation. 2 years ago, Apple and OpenAI were partners. ChatGPT got built into the iPhone. Now they're suing each other. Apple says its former engineers didn't just quit, they took blueprints, internal files, and even a company laptop with them. Meet Chang Liu, 8 years at Apple, senior electrical engineer working on iPhone hardware. In January 2026, he left to build OpenAI's new device. Apple's lawsuit claims that before he walked out, Liu accessed and downloaded dozens of confidential files off Apple's internal network, many of them stamped confidential in plain sight. Then there's Tang Tan, an Apple veteran who helped shape the iPhone and Apple Watch, now OpenAI's chief hardware officer. The lawsuit accuses him of something bolder. Using Apple's own internal codenames to pull information out of Apple employees he was trying to recruit, telling them to bring actual parts, batteries, logic boards, chips for what he called show and tell. Behind Tan sits IO Products, a hardware startup OpenAI bought last year. Its co-founder is Jony Ive, Apple's former chief design officer, the man behind the iPhones look for over a decade. Apple names IO Products directly as a defendant in this case. This isn't one rogue hire. Apple's filing says more than 400 former Apple employees now work at OpenAI, and the leak trail keeps going. After Liu left, he stayed in contact with Yuting Peng, still employed at Apple. For months later, she joined OpenAI too, but not before the two had deep conversations about confidential Apple projects. Apple isn't calling this a misunderstanding, it's calling it a pattern. The complaint even alleges OpenAI pushed outside hardware manufacturers to use a metal finishing technique Apple invented, while letting those manufacturers believe Apple had signed off on it. So what is Apple actually asking a court for? 2 legal claims: breach of intellectual property agreement and misappropriation of trade secrets under the Federal Defend Trade Secrets Act. Apple wants damages, an injunction, and a court order forcing OpenAI to stop using anything it took. OpenAI's response so far is short. A spokesperson said, "We have no interest in other companies' trade secrets. We remain focused on building innovative technology that empowers people everywhere." No denial of the specific claims, no detailed rebuttal yet. This isn't the first time Silicon Valley has fought this exact battle. A decade ago, Waymo sued Uber over a self-driving engineer accused of taking thousands of confidential files on his way out. That case nearly went to trial and ended in a $250 million settlement. Trade secret law has teeth, and Apple knows it. The timing matters. OpenAI is heading toward what could be one of the biggest IPOs in tech history. A trade secret lawsuit this size, filed by Apple of all companies, lands right in the middle of that runway, and investors notice lawsuits like this. This didn't come out of nowhere either. Back in May, reports surfaced that OpenAI itself was weighing legal action against Apple, accusing Apple of not doing enough to promote ChatGPT across its own devices. 2 years after teaming up, both sides now think the other one betrayed them. Here's the bigger picture. OpenAI wants to build its own consumer hardware, a screenless AI device meant to sit alongside your phone, not replace it. Apple's argument is simple: you don't get to build the future by copying the blueprint of the past, especially when that blueprint belongs to someone else. If Apple wins, OpenAI could be blocked from shipping the very device it's been racing to build. If OpenAI wins, or settles quietly, it walks away with its hardware ambitions intact, and a warning shot fired at every tech company hiring away Apple talent. 2 companies that once stood on stage together now face off in federal court in Northern California. What happens next won't just decide who's right, it will shape how the next era of AI hardware gets built and who gets to build it.